All right. Hello, folks. It's 5:30. I'm going to call this meeting to order and ask that everyone stands for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, united, liberty, and justice for all. Thank you. Start off with celebrations, and we have one celebration for sure, maybe a couple. Yep.
I'm going to start by introducing Tracy Oakham, intermediate school principal, and she has a celebration from her building.
Yes, so I'll make this short. Good evening. I would love to introduce to you Melody Butler. She is our reading interventionist, and she has a story to tell, and I would love for her to tell it. So I'm going to let her words do the talking. So
I'm Melody Butler. I'm the reading interventionist at the intermediate school, and most of you that do know me know that reading is what I'm passionate about teaching the kids. So this year, it's been really on my heart that I really wanted to just find a way to encourage the kids to love to read. I can teach them everything I know to read, how to read, but I wanted them to learn to love it so that they would continue it when they left my door. So anyway, I started a reading competition with them, and these are kids that struggle with reading, so I had to put an apple out there that was going to make them bite it and want to work on it. So anyway, I told them I wanted to see who could read the most number of minutes, and we had a $50 prize at the end. I was like, okay, who's going to get it? And I thought, I didn't really think it was going to take off as well as it did. Well, they can attest that it did, and it was a competition to go. So anyway, by the end of it, it lasted 12 weeks, and in 12 weeks, they read 52,825 minutes. I averaged that out. That's about 73 hours of extra reading outside of my classroom on their own that they were choosing. And I had about 98% of the kids that were participating, which I thought was pretty cool too. So I have my winners. I really, if I could have fit the whole class in here, I would have, because they all participated so well. But I'd like to invite because I really want to celebrate these kiddos. These were
Wow, good job.
Audrey,
That's awesome.
and then you may not like me now. Right? And so and I left it at that. Monday I brought him in and I know this is really honest. And so I want you to think he came back after that. Guys, I read a book and it's so cool. I can't wait to hear it. And I remember when we started it, I think he might have had that first part of that book. Couldn't wait to tell what was going to happen next. And since then, I've seen that truly come out, that excitement. But he left. How many books did you read?
Whole series and 2 other books.
That he was excited about. So much.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Yep.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I get a picture?
Good job, guys.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, so I have another celebration, and I'm going to give kind of vague information about this one right now because it's not official, but I think it's something that maybe Shane can bring back in July as a more formal celebration of specific people. But the state sent out information, the Department of Education sent out information this week about the state paid incentive merit pay for teachers. And they are going to pay out some money across the state, and we weren't really sure exactly what the rules of that were or what they were looking for. We just knew that something was going to happen this year. So we got a list at the early part of the week and some guidelines on what qualified. And so we have some teachers in our district that have qualified based on growth in their classroom according to test scores. And the test scores were not from this year because those have not been come back to us yet, but they were from last year, so it would have been 22, 23 test scores. And it's actually, they go back 3 years and average last year and the 2 before that to get a growth score for every teacher in the state. And some of our teachers qualified under that. Some of our teachers also qualified under a shortage area. So the state has identified shortage area teachers for hard to find subject areas or positions that we find hard to find we find it hard to find applicants for those positions. So that could be special ed, it could be high school math. But for them to be eligible for money under the shortage area, they still had to show positive growth in their classrooms for the last 3 years. So both of them are tied to growth. We actually have 17 teachers in our district that will receive some amount of merit pay incentive from the state. We will actually, if I'm not mistaken, Terry, we will actually pay that money out and then the state will reimburse us. Is that the way you understand it? Okay, and then we will pay it out. Okay, so we have 17 teachers, and the amount ranges from $2,500 on the low end to $6,000 on the top end for our teachers. And there are some teachers across the state that are going to receive $10,000. We didn't have any of those in our district, but 17 teachers, anyway, that's a good number. And I would love to provide you the list, but the list is not official yet. And so hopefully early next week, we will have the official names and the official list, and then you all can celebrate those specific people at a later time. But that's good news for our people. That's good news.
Awesome.
And that concludes my celebrations.
All right. I have a couple as well. Had a note today mentioning the football team and Coach Lockridge. There was some help needed at a war veteran, 72-year war veteran that I think had some storm damage and cleanup needed. And Coach was able to, I guess, they got some volunteers. Basically, the whole football team went out and helped this gentleman. I just really appreciate that and think that's a great service to our community. And then I just, with that, want to encourage, our staff and people that if there are groups of our students that, get out and do a volunteer, something even this summer, just special occasions, we'd love to just recognize it, even if it is, stating it here. It's just a very good thing for our community, I think. So, also, would like to mention that we had a lovely luncheon yesterday, and from what I understand, it was out with the old, in with the new, but the old is what was really celebrated, from what I understand, and what I saw. So, those being celebrated, Jody, Leanne, and Kelly Swibeck, who's not here today, And I had the privilege of saying just a little bit about each, and I'll share it here just for public knowledge. But Leanne, I mentioned again, just your smile as I saw you in the office and schools, out and about, always had a joy to yourself, and I appreciated that so much, and I think it came across in your work. And we thank you for your time here at the central office. Kelly, I know she's not here. We have a history with our daughters growing up together who are just very close friends, and we love Mackenzie, and we're so happy for Kelly getting married and moving on to Oklahoma City, and I understand she's probably starting vacation now, and so super excited for her. And then Jody, this is his last school board meeting. Man, now B&B, don't start. But I've known Jody for a long time, and it was sporadic, just the early years of him being involved, probably as assistant superintendent. I don't know if I knew whenever you were teaching, but I remember him approaching me about doing some of the school posters, artwork that I still see up a little bit in different areas, talking to him about whenever I was interested in coaching soccer, and he had advice for me, and talking through things like that. And then, of course, the school board as assistant superintendent when I first came on, and then making the transition. And I know there's been tough times with COVID, was a really difficult time that Jody saw through and was passionate about, that we were able to get through it on a positive side, and I think we did. And I just want to thank you for your service all these years to our school system, and I really think we are better for having you here, and I'm excited for your next steps, and I know you're excited as well to do something a little bit different. And as I mentioned yesterday, I can't wait to see how you support us from your new position.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of the
Yeah,
others.
I'll say something as well. First of all, Leanne, Travis said it great. Your personality come through from the very first time I met you. So thank you for your service to the district as well. And even though maybe Kelly's watching, I don't know, Kelly.
Sure she is.
I'm sure she is as well. Kelly's wealth of knowledge, I know, will be greatly missed, and I appreciate everything she's done for the district as well. And Jody, is you thinking about over the past few years that we've got to know each other a little more, I couldn't help but think of the old proverb from 27, iron sharpens iron, process of two pieces of metal rubbing together to rub the rough spots off each side. And I truly respect you for that. And thank you for your service to Siloam Springs.
Well, Leanne, gotten to have some conversations with you, and very grateful for that and how you've served us, and looking forward to how you can continue to support us. I know that came up in our conversation yesterday about ways that we'll potentially be working together with your higher ed position. I wish I knew Kelly better, but I'll say her reputation precedes her, so I always hear her name come up, and whether it's helping with some of the groups that are assembled in order to help make decisions. So I know she's one that is beloved and well-liked, so for sure, I'm going to miss that. Jody, you have a very tough job. You've had a very tough job here. You've had to make decisions that there was no win. No matter what you chose, there was no win. Snow days is a big one that comes to my mind. I know that those are tough ones, but I want to thank you for choosing to be here at Siloam, and all three of you. I want to thank you for choosing to be here at Siloam for the time you have, and I'm grateful for the service that you've given us, and I hope that we can continue benefiting as we work together. As Jody goes to the co-op, and Leanne, you go to U of A Fort Smith. We're just thankful for how our Siloam Springs footprint grows, and hope we can continue to work together with y'all and have the best education program we can here in Siloam. So thank you both. And Kelly, not here.
Well, I don't really know any of them. I'm new on the board. But thank you for all your service and time and effort put into the district. Everybody said, so many great things, and we really appreciate everything. And Jody, everybody said, the school board really wouldn't be that bad as long as the superintendent stayed on. No, I've known him all through my high school career and never really had any bad dealings with him. And Still none yet, hopefully. So, but no, thank you for everything you've done, and look forward to what you can do for us in the future. So,
Brian, you knew Jody as a baby, right?
Yeah, that's right. Oh, Travis. Leanne, thank you, and good luck to you. Kelly, if she's watching, which I'm sure she is, but Kelly's gone over the board and worked tirelessly for this district that you people in here know, but the public doesn't know. And she's given it all, and we wish her the best. And I hope she has a great life in Oklahoma City and come back and see us every once in a while. And I'm sure she'll do great things for Oklahoma Department of Ed as well. And Mr. Wiggins, where do I start? I was on the board when we hired you, back in the dark ages. But Jody, I could go on, but the biggest thing about Jody, he loves Siloam Springs and he cares about kids. And I thank you for that. Thank you.
All right.
I'm not going to say anything right now.
All right.
But thank you. I will say thank you to
All right.
all five of you each.
All right. That's it for celebrations, I believe. All right. Any comments from patrons tonight, Mr. Patrick? All right. Bambi, let the minutes show we have an established quorum, please. And we'll move on to reports.
So my report tonight, I am going to turn over to Ms. Payton to give you some feedback on student cell phones and the surveys that she has, survey information she's compiled and the committee that she put together to have some conversations around our policy. This was a request from the board, so I gave this project to Michelle, and I think she has said bad things about me ever since. So anyway, I'm going to turn my report section over to Michelle.
Good evening. So I'm going to share some information with you tonight about the results of our recent phone surveys, and I'll tell you a little bit about the process that we went through. We held some stakeholder meetings regarding the use of cell phones and other devices in the school setting. So after the board meeting, Mr. Wiggins asked me to work with Dr. Miller to start the process for collecting all of the information regarding cell phone use, primarily at the secondary campuses. So Dr. Miller and I met a few days later and quickly started to come up with a plan on how we were going to gather all the feedback, and we wanted to make sure we were including our students, our families, and our staff. So our first step was to push out a survey. We got together, had Tabitha Douthit, who was doing some internship, and she helped me, and Dr. Miller helped, and we created some surveys. We pushed those out through email, pushed them out through social media. Bambi helped us with that, and we put them on the school websites to each of the stakeholder groups to collect that feedback around three main areas. We wanted to look at the purpose of cell phone use in the schools for all three of those stakeholders, impact on teaching and learning, and support for change or support for the current policy. So once we had our survey data, we had to form two committees. We formed one at middle school, one at the high school. They were made up of teachers, administrators, and students. Both groups met for a face-to-face 1-hour meeting, and we took the results of the surveys and we asked them to look at those results, kind of compare the differences, because as you've probably seen if you've looked at the data, our students definitely feel one way and our teachers feel another way. So we asked them to compare those results. We gave both of those committees sample cell phone policies from different schools around the area and just asked, what do you think about it? What do you notice? What do you wonder about this? What do you think works well? So we got all of their feedback on that as well. You have copies of all of the results, I think, and comments from each group, but due to the amount of the feedback that you guys have, I put together just a few slides so that it would kind of summarize what we found. Middle school committee, we wanted to highlight the points of agreement between students and staff because the graphs themselves will show you what the differences are, but there were many things that they did agree on. So these are highlights of the main points of agreements between students and staff at middle school. And they were interesting. The kids participated well. I was very impressed. I was actually, Micah Cummings led the middle school one. I was at the high school, and I can tell you I was extremely impressed with the kids and the feedback that they provided. It was very good. Go to the next one. This is the high school feedback. Again, they have interesting perspectives. I learned a lot from listening to them about their perspective, and I think they do have an important perspective on many points. Put this slide together to just show the two questions that were very similar, one to teachers and one to students, and as you can tell by the graph, very different opinions. Same on this one. We have teacher results on this is about cell phone use and if they think it distracts them from learning, and the teachers say absolutely, and the students say, oh, no way, we're good. So this is their teacher results and student results about the class time, if it's distracting for them. Again, you can see one, I will explain one, the way we set this up was 1 is I strongly disagree, and 5 is I strongly agree. So our results are almost exact opposites.
Would you mind reading what these questions are for the folks who might
Not
be
at all.
watching?
Cell phones and electronic devices other than the school-issued Chromebook should be used in the classroom for educational purposes. Our teachers, I'm going to try to see it, 49.3 strongly disagree. We have 6.1 that strongly agree. Our students, the same question, that cell phones or electronic devices other than a school-issued Chromebook should be used in the classroom for educational purposes. 5.1% strongly disagree on our student side, and 29.3 strongly agree. The next slide highlights if use of cell phones were only allowed before and after school, during passing times and at lunch, learning or attention to the teacher and to instruction would increase. Our teachers, 56.8% say they strongly agree with that. We have 3.4% who disagree. The student side of that, same question, 35.4 strongly disagree and 9.3 strongly agree. And then we asked our parents. So the parents have their surveys on a different slide. We asked slightly different questions to the parents, and we asked them for their level of agreement, again, from 1 being strongly disagree to 5 being strongly agree, if they felt cell phones were a distraction to the learning environment, and 60.8% strongly agree, with 4.1 strongly disagreeing. This one addresses the parent's opinion about the need for the student to have access to their phone during school hours. And a lot of kids, we heard in the committee, and we didn't have a large number of students, but some of the students said, my parents really want me to have my phone with them. So we felt like that was a really important question to ask our parents. How necessary is it? So as you can see, we have 39.2% who strongly disagree and 16.2% who do agree, strongly agree, that their students need to have a phone during school hours. And this is about contacting. I need to contact my student frequently throughout the day through texts or calls. And I know if you've had time to look through the comments from some of the parents, they're going to tell you why they feel that that's very necessary. But 50.7 strongly disagree, and 4.1 strongly agree that they do need to contact through calls or text to their student during the day. And then we asked them to rate their level of agreement on whether or not they would support a phone-free learning environment for my student where cell phones were put away during the instructional time. And 68.9 strongly agree, and 10.1% strongly disagree. Is that it? Okay. And
Good
that's all.
data. Thank you.
What questions do you have?
These are verbatim the questions that were presented, I guess.
They are.
Okay.
So I did tell Mr. Wiggins not to hold it against me because I didn't correct spelling or grammar. I
Oh,
just
no, that's
copied and
fine.
pasted.
No, that's fine.
But yes, they are. And in your results, you will see that we wrote down word for word what our kids said. And I copied and pasted straight from the survey.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect. This is good data.
I would like, on that last slide, I would like to point out that our current policy is exactly what that says. That we are phone-free learning environment for students during instruction unless the teacher gives them permission. So if you go back several slides, teachers say that the phones are distractions in class. An overwhelming majority say that. But then when you go to the question, do you let them use cell phones in class? Almost 70% of them say yes, or with my permission. So our teachers agree that it's a problem in class. We have a policy currently in place that says the teacher has the ability to say no. Actually, the policy says they will not have them unless the teacher gives them permission and only for instructional purposes. But the teachers are allowing it currently.
Well, that doesn't make sense, though.
I understand.
Do you think that there's pressure on the, I mean, why would that seem to
I think if you read through some of the comments of the students, you will get some understanding.
Now, I will say I took 2 evenings to read through those responses, and it was quite entertaining. So thank you for,
very entertaining.
Yes.
I mean, it really was. The data presented was excellent. I thank you all for doing it. It was great. I'll be honest in just saying that I quickly skipped to the comments because for me, it's easy to fill out dots on a survey, but the people who really want to give some input, those comments, and that's not just this, that's been with other surveys that we've sent out before, but thank you. I just want to say thank you. It was educational, to say the least.
And I think the teacher comments are revealing too, because the teacher
Right.
comments reveal why they feel they need to provide that opportunity and why some of them absolutely don't. So I think that feedback in the comment sections is very valuable.
And even in the teacher committees, at least the high school one, and Micah might have something else to say about middle school, but they were very passionate and genuine in their thoughts and concerns. And we had teachers that said, I need these kids to be able to use their phone. And they talked about, I think it was an art teacher, he said, I can't get the same quality. Phones can take a better picture than a Chromebook. And he said, I can't get the same quality.
I've got a problem with that. Here's why. If a kid doesn't have a phone, what does that mean for that student? Are they at a disadvantage, or are we implying that a phone is a prerequisite to be a student?
Great question.
Any comments? So my kids don't have phones. 4 kids in our school do not have phones. And it's a frustration that it seems like a phone is a prerequisite. So I have to get my kids' phones, which it's not money. It's a decision. It's a value decision that we've made. And I see a lot of the danger. Sadly, I've seen a lot of the dangers since being on the board of what phones cause. I've heard many stories. I've been in many expulsion meetings. There's a lot of dangers for them. So that would be I understand that. I've heard that argument before. And that to me doesn't hold water, simply because I say, well, if you walk that out, that reasoning, you get to a point where you say a phone is now required. A teacher is going to require a phone because everyone has a phone, but not everyone's going to have a phone. I don't think we have 100% kids with phones. I know 4 of them that don't, that I can speak to. So, okay, that's all I had to add, but thank you.
So I put this in my report section because it's information. You have a wealth of information beyond what she showed provided in the board docs.
Mm-hmm.
She's provided other policies from other school districts. And if you go through there, there's a lot of common themes to those policies, and then there's some that are somewhat unique and have different components. And some address only phones, some address watches and iPods and everything else that they can use these days to communicate. And so my suggestion, if the board wants to pursue changing our policy, I would suggest that the board have a work session where it can be just an open discussion with all the material, all of the stuff that has been provided and whatever else you want to bring in out on the table and have a conversation.
Yeah.
And then from that, if there's going to be a policy change, you all can suggest I wouldn't anticipate that the board is going to write a policy, okay? But they could look through policies and pull out components and say, we think these are valuable, and then ask the administrators to put a policy together that resembles that and bring it back to you at the next board meeting.
Yeah.
I mean, you did a great job with this report.
Yes,
so.
very good.
So naturally, the policy would fall on yours.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, no, thank you.
No, actually, I'm not even going to allude to that. That's not on you. That's on us.
No, I'm joking.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for gathering the data, though.
I
This
think-
hopefully helps us make the best decision. I want to make the best decision. I don't want to.
I mean, yeah, this information is wonderful for us to have that open meeting, and we can discuss. And I think the community, deserves that for us to have that conversation, and this information will help us do that. So thank you.
Well, for unintended consequences is another thing that I'm really afraid of here. So, you pull a lever, and if we don't know what's going to change over here on the back end, or what costs might be, required in order to put, if it's lockers, if it's whatever that is, we need to have all that. We need to know what it affects downstream, not just,
Yeah.
If I make that decision, I'm going to make a bad decision. So
Yeah, and I would say too, if we have this, when we have this open session and we go back and we develop a policy, I mean, I don't think it's just going to be one more session to decide everything. I think things will come out that we need to still look into and take into account. I mean, I wrote down that, the kids grew up using them. This could be kind of the first generation that's really come through that has grown up using them. Some kids, of course. So, I mean, we got to take into account all of those, the mental aspect of that, and then like Eric talked about, the ones who don't, and the teachers that enforce it and need help. I mean, there's so many things that we will be able to chat, and so this helps. Good.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great work.
That concludes my report.
was I going to get a chance to?
I mean, I was going to say, I saw it on there, and you were kind of sitting, so I didn't know if you wanted to do it now.
I would like to.
Or
Sure.
in the open session, so whichever you.
Oh, whatever. I figured
That's what-
now was the time to. Yeah, I'd like to do it now if that's okay. Would you mind putting?
Let me start, what, stopwatch, what?
Stopwatch. I promised Travis 5 minutes. I will. You signal me when it's 5 minutes, Travis.
I'm good.
So I'll share a little bit of just where my passion is around this subject. So I was a year ago that I first brought up the cell phone concern, and as I mentioned, I personally think cell phones have a lot of dangers. It doesn't mean we don't let our kids be on devices, but there's a lot of rules around that. So so I brought some slides just to kind of talk about the why here and maybe some of my concerns. I'm trying to kill time for So this was Dr. Miller had challenged me. I mentioned this last meeting. She said, share the why, and it's bigger than just saying, it's bigger than just school performance. I think I told my wife this, and I didn't know if I'd say this today, but I have a theory that we're going to look back at some point down the road, and we're going to have a similar aha moment of what the generation before us had about kids and teens smoking cigarettes, and cigarettes being a widely accepted thing to do, no problems with it. And suddenly, society as a whole said, oops, we shouldn't have done that. So I just have a few slides to share. So this first one, this is teenagers' daily screen time. So 9 hours a day, teenagers spend on a screen. 5 of that is on social media. Okay, so we're talking a big chunk of the day, kids looking at a screen, and 5 of those are on social media. Next one down. So these are the share of teens who say they're online almost constantly. Oh, by the way, for those watching and not able to see the screen, I'll try to paint a word picture around what we're seeing here. So the share of teens who say they're online almost constantly has doubled since 2014 and 15. So in 2014 and 15, there was 24% of teens said they were online almost constantly. 56% said they were on several times a day. Then in 2022, it's now 46% of teens say they're online almost constantly. This is 13 to 17-year-olds, and about the same numbers in 2023. Next slide. So major depression among teens is the next one. So we're looking at a graph here, somewhere between 10 and 15% for girls and somewhere below 5% for boys, up until you see somewhere around 2010, 2012, 2014, the line starts to go up pretty drastically. We're now up to just under 30% for major depression among teens for girls, and that's up 145%. For boys, it's up 161%. And how this was defined is this was teens ages 12 to 17 who had at least one major depressive episode in the past year. So one thing you notice, and I'll share a couple more graphs, these lines start to go up somewhere in 2010 to 2014. So that was around the time of, so the iPhone had already been out, but that was around the time when the front-facing camera came out, and that's when Instagram started, and some of the social media platforms that are very similar in that they're about sharing pictures and photos. So the conclusion that many experts are making here is that why are we seeing such jumps in major depression? What happened around that time? Right now, the best theory, and I'd love to hear if anyone else has a better idea, but that's around the time that we had smartphones. Every kid had a smartphone with a front-facing camera, and were on social media and putting their lives out there. And everything was about the likes, how many likes you got, and what feedback you got, and all those things. So next slide down, because I'm probably behind on my schedule. This is a little bit harder to see on this screen, but I'll share all these on my social media. I'll put them on Facebook afterwards so you guys can look at them. Suicide rate, this is a tough one. So if you'll notice, so suicide rates among teens have jumped up quite a bit. And again, I won't go, females are way up there. And this was, again, to show the trend, this is somewhere in that 2013, 2015, 2017 is when those, you can see on this graph that it actually shows where Instagram was founded, where Facebook was founded. It kind of calls those out and says these could be causes, or at least having effects there. The next slide down. So this is more just looking to see what those who are, so Norway has banned phones in 400 middle schools. What they see for GPA, they see their GPAs climbing. And then the next slide down, they see bullying rates going down. So I've kind of said this already, but it's my belief that I think cell phones are a big breeding ground for bullying. I think depression is affected by this. I'm sure you can all, those of you who work with kids, I'm sure you can attest that depression, we're seeing depression levels that we've never seen before. So I will say the most of this data comes from, and I've believed this about cell phones for quite some time, but most of this data comes from a pretty recent book called The Anxious Generation, and it's actually a very popular book. Our governor evidently read it and was very impacted by it. She has sent it out to, I think, every other governor in the state and a lot of our lawmakers. So Jody mentioned this at one point, maybe in our last meeting, that something might come down from the state. My thought is, I really don't like waiting for the state and the federal government to make good decisions for us, partly because I think we can make the best decisions for ourselves. So it would be my request that if this data resonates with you, please inform us and me and help us make good decisions. If you feel like these results are inaccurate or worthless, tell me why. But I've heard enough about this. I've researched this enough. I'm pretty convinced about the why, and but I'm willing to believe I'm wrong. So if anyone, I'm asking this for the folks in this room, for Jody, from other directors. If this is wrong, or if I'm wrong in my conclusion, please tell me. And but I think a conversation around this needs to happen, and I would just ask for. And my only motivation here is I look at this data and it just breaks my heart. And I think about not only I can make decisions for my kids, but all 4 of my kids hopefully get married someday. So I'm thinking about my kids' spouses. I'm thinking about their kids. I'm thinking about our community. So, and the folks that I live among. So I hate to hear it. I don't want to hear about my friends' kids or my kids, falling into some of these things and seeing some of these bad effects. So I know I went way over, Travis, and I'm sorry, but hopefully that was valuable. And thank you guys. I get a sense that there is a good reception. I look around the room, I see heads nodding, and I hope that means that I'm on the same page. I don't want to be the only one in the room asking for this, but I just look at this and I just almost cry about it. So whatever you can do to help me make a good decision and us make a good decision, I will just be very grateful. So that's it.
Thank you. Yeah. I think as we start getting into it and as we start digging, we're going to see even it runs deeper than just cell phones even. And you mentioned it just there at the end. Your home has decided not to use them, and we have kids in our district that the home life is not ideal, and kids aren't taught, if they do have phones, how to use them. The experiences that they have at home, with cell phones aren't right, and so I think we're going to dig deeper, and I think we need to be open then to some of those tough conversations. And so we just have to be careful of, it's just me, making a rush decision without really looking at, okay, if we do make this call, where else are we going to need to? We can't just make this decision and be done with it. I think it could open up, a book that we'll need to tackle even more, which is fine. And I don't not want to do it for that reason at all. We need to have our minds and hearts open to that. So, yeah, thanks for that information. Anyone else? Good? All right.
That concludes my report.
There you go. I like it. All right. Amy Carter.
I'm going to share something before we move to the ELPA scores for this year. The state of Arkansas has 2 designations that teachers can earn. One's a lead teacher designation and a master teacher designation. They've been around for a couple of years, but they've not been at the forefront of anything until LEARNS came. And so part of LEARNS and the incentive merit pay that Mr. Wiggins spoke about a little bit earlier both of these designations can play into that incentive pay, as well as some other parts of LEARNs, where when we have student interns or teachers on alternate licensure, that they have to have mentors starting in 2026. Their mentor must have a lead or master designation on their license. So hearing all this a few months back, Siloam jumped on that bandwagon quickly, and we were the first district in the state to ask this program, NIET, which is National Institute for Excellence in Teaching. They have a program, it lasts all through a school year. So it'll start in August, and then teachers will have projects and tasks along the way, practicing what they're learning throughout this. And I'm excited to say today I sent the email to 33 of our teachers that will be participants in the cohort for NIET, so that they can earn their lead designation on their license. So I'm excited. I know our teachers are going to be excited, because I know, like, high school sent first ones to send back an email, you'll be in. Well, it didn't take a minute, and they were getting replies back. So it's nice to know that when we roll into that 2026 school year, that we will have teachers that are ready to support our novices that are coming into the profession. So I just wanted to take a minute and kind of celebrate that piece for us. Okay, now we'll move to the ELPA scores, and I'm going to let Dr. Carter take that over, since this is her area of expertise, and then we'll answer any questions.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to share our English learners' performance on the annual summative assessment, ELPA. So this is 5 years of data, and students are making progress. We are maintaining the number of students that are scoring proficient. What you don't see on the slide is I want to draw everyone's eyes to the 2023 emerging data. 118 students, students that are newcomers, they're new to our district. What you don't see there is we also have, this is summative data, we also have students that come to us, new students to the district, and we have an ELPA screener. So this is summative data. We have ELPA screener that we give to new students to the district. So we actually in 23-24 had 202 students that were emerging. So students that needed language acquisition, needed more academic support. So when you see the 24 numbers, we actually had 202 students that were emerging. So we are moving our students into the progressing and more students into the proficient. But this is a snapshot of one piece of data, that ELPA, English Language Proficiency Assessment summative data. We do have a screener as well that we give. I also want to point out the total number of L's to the right of the slide, our increasing enrollment of L's for the last 5 years. So in 2020, we had 714 students sit for this exam, and in 2024, we had 922 students sit for this exam.
Dr. Carter.
You're right. So it's the social, you might have some social, some words, but it's the listening and speaking that they might have a little bit of. It's the writing and reading that domains that we need to That's right, absolutely. So the listening, speaking students develop that faster, or people develop that faster. So it is the listening, the writing and the reading that we really work on. Some of the.
I have a question on
Yes,
that really
yes.
quick. So if they scored proficient in 2020, are they still represented in the next year?
So they move to the exit and monitoring status.
So like those 85 that were proficient in 2020 are no longer in the no longer tested by ELPA for the following year?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes. So we are currently, and actually Mr. Kelly and I visited today about the data. And so we have, for example, Mr. Wiggins had mentioned, so we're working now to look at the 120 proficient on this one assessment. And of the 120 students, we look to find 2 supporting pieces of proficient data so that the 120 students can exit the program into a monitoring status. We still keep close on students that are in monitoring, and that is an expectation to make sure our students don't slip back into needing to be, and if they do, we do put students back into the program for English language development services. So we do monitor it closely. We're talking about that just today.
What's the grade range? Is it all grades?
All
Okay.
grades, kindergarten through 12th grade. So we have numbers, and Ms. Carter and I debated on percentages, but if you look at the 2024 year, students, the 152 students in emerging, that's 16% of the students that took the exam. And then our students in progressing, that's 70% of our students. And then we do have 13% of our students that scored proficient, and that's 120 students. So we are maintaining as a district the students that are scoring proficient on the exam. But we always are looking at ways to improve our practice. So the team is really working on those foundational skills and really looking at our new students, because our new students that are coming to us may have gaps in the content knowledge due to limited or interrupted education. So it's very important that we know the background of each learner. In the application, we are putting into action our instructional model. Our instructional strategy cards, for example, are very helpful as a resource to really have at our fingertips some great research-based instructional strategies. And the instructional strategy cards are really based around helping ELs, English learners, but it's good for all students. So that's an example of that application and what we're doing as a district to really provide additional academic support. I do want to also mention on assessment, we look at a variety of data sources other than the summative data sources, and we identify ELs for additional Tier 2 and Tier 3 support. So that's very important. Our newcomers, we have really identified a need for a prerequisite to our English language development curriculum, which is EL Achieve. So we're working on some really good curriculum for a prerequisite to our EL Achieve. We also are working on reading foundational skills as a supplemental. EL Achieve is a great curriculum, but we are finding that we are needing a little more on the reading foundational skills, so supplementing some supplementals to the curriculum. We also identified, Natalie and I worked really hard on, and all the principals really, on focusing on specific skills that each learner needs, whether it's the reading domain and the reading and writing domain, but actually having time with the ESL teacher, more time with the teacher. And that can be tricky because of schedules, but that is a focus area as well. Also, professional development, we are working on more training and collaboration. We have worked on an ELD PD, that's English Language Development PD, for all core content teachers. The principals came together, and we have a date for August 7th for K-4 teachers to have ELD in core content classroom training, and also for our 512 teachers to have some training to really help hone those skills in ways that we can support our Ls in the core content classroom. And we also, this summer, we as a district are offering a language camp. So we have 2 sessions for grades 1 and 2, and then in grades 3 and 4. So we are really excited about having our summer L language camp. And also I'd like to add one last thing to the presentation. The goal of adding bilingual faculty and staff is a great goal, and that does help us absolutely to build those relationships with our learners. So, any questions for me on the annual performance of our ELPA testing?
Thank you for sharing. I did have one question. How does this, some of the stats compare to other districts in the area? Do we know if comparable? Do we know that?
Great question, and I can absolutely, go ahead. We have talked. What is? How do we?
So to follow up with that, we're using the same curriculum because we've actually, under Leanne's guidance over the last few years, we've actually switched to adopting some of the things that district is doing because they have had a little bit better success than we have. Don't know the exact numbers. We can get that for you. What's kind of interesting in ESL is there's not that many districts in the state that have a significant population. There are 3 of us in Northwest Arkansas that have a significant population. We're one of those 3. The other 2 are larger than us. But then after you get out of Northwest Arkansas, there are 3 or 4 districts that are somewhat close. But after that, there's just not that many districts that are dealing with the issue. So our resources in sharing information with other districts are somewhat limited, but thankfully we have 2 big neighbors that do have significant populations that we can glean some information from.
Well, so I was just going to say, I probably thought that they're, and encourage us to even look outside of our area, because I know there's areas in the country that have, this need. And then also even other countries, like countries where, the English teachers are over there teaching English, when they're surrounded by it, like, are there learnings that we could take? And maybe some resources might be, JBU or U of A, just different things that, just to see if something beyond our little world right here, but out there that's just, I don't know, unique, different, that potentially could be looked into and, gather. I know curriculums, we need to follow curriculums and all that, but I just encourage us to dig deep and look for those.
One challenge in that area, when you go outside of the state, every state has a different way of dealing with specific populations.
Right.
We as a state cannot teach in a language other than English.
Right.
There are some other states that allow that.
Okay.
So that's a different take on dealing with the situation, but that's not something we are allowed to do.
Sure.
So anyway, going outside of the state gets a little bit challenging trying to mesh that with what's allowed in our state.
Mm-hmm.
The language camp, that optional or required?
So we It's optional. It's not.
Okay, I didn't think so. Okay, yeah.
Can we encourage? We can-
There we go.
We can
Okay.
encourage or
Great.
suggest, yeah.
We did. We had some invitations.
Were there
to go out.
good participation in it? Did we have good participation in it?
Yes, yes, we have we have two, we have a licensed teacher and a classified teacher, so 2 adults, and we have plenty of, every seat that we could have is full.
Oh, really?
Oh, good. That's good to hear. Great idea, whoever.
And
Does that mean do we not have enough room?
Well, we had to have the student-teacher ratio, so it was based on how many teachers we could have.
We also are challenged with the number of people who volunteer to teach.
Yes,
during
that's
the
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Sure.
Huh. There's a bottleneck.
Sure.
Right.
I think, I mean, it would be to reach out to our PTO group, to potentially reach out to the families that have had a great experience in our program and get them to share, kind of grassroots marketing, to other families and encourage other families to really focus on this or to speak English at home sometime, and learn themselves. It could be beneficial to reach out and find some of these families that have had a positive experience to help us spread the word, basically, and encourage those kiddos to, because I know it's got to be frustrating to a person that doesn't speak the language. They can hear it, they're not understanding it in the academic field. They go back to their regular class and they're just like, ugh. But when they know another family that has a child that has gone through it as well, I mean, I can't imagine being in a new country and, so just anything positive we can help find and build up and just help establish that foundation to keep pushing would be great.
And if there's opportunity if there's a decision we can make with, that would help get more instructors for that summer course, I think that's something that we can perhaps affect, thinking about control the controllables. That to me sounds like low-hanging fruit. So I would encourage you to think about how what you might ask from us in order
For
to
next summer.
Because if we're running out of seats, then it tells me there's more interest than we have capacity for. So
I see
That's
Mr.
personal.
Killian's mind turning back there because he is going to take over this position in our central office.
Yep.
He will be in charge of ESL next year.
Awesome.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Patrick?
Good evening. I had 2 things and really 3 things I want to touch on. And Mr. Jackson, you talked earlier in your celebrations about our football team going and doing that cleanup. I actually want to highlight, we had last week, I think we had 28 kids that we took up to Decatur and worked with a group of people there just to clean up various yards of elderly people that had struggled getting limbs and stuff out of their yards. We have another group actually going tomorrow. It's a smaller group that signed up, but we put out the word and tried to get information out. They can get their community service hours through the LEARNS Act. So we do have not only our football team, but we've had other students who stepped up that maybe not have anything to do with a specific group that just were looking to volunteer. So that's always when we talked about when Tyler Dees called me and asked if that was something we could put together. I wasn't sure what kind of response, but I was really happy with the number of kids that we had that stepped up and wanted to help without having an adult say, hey, you're on the football team, so you're going. Now, those kids agreed to go, and that's a great thing, but these other kids that went did it because they saw a need and they signed up on their own. We just provided them transportation up there. And so I was really proud of that. So I think when it's all said and done, we'll have roughly about between 35 and 40 total kids after tomorrow that did that on top of the football team going up there. So I did want to highlight that.
Let me give you some recognition. I know that I'd asked you about that, and I know you were already busy that day. And there's, you're a organization, guys. You think about all the what do you have to do to make this happen, and everything from transportation to liability to permission forms. So I just want to thank you for that and give you credit. You didn't take the credit for it, but give you the credit for what you did to help make that happen. So thank you, Shane. And yeah, that was good leadership there. So thank you.
I just got it. I just asked people to help me.
You can't take a compliment.
I didn't do anything right there. Those kids, the ones that showed up, got up there and went and worked all in that hot and helped those people out. So I appreciate, but thank you. I appreciate it. Second thing I want to talk about, give a little further update on softball, baseball, tennis complex. We are nearing, we have a few things that are still at a meeting yesterday, actually, with the construction company, and we've got some big things. I consider them really big, and they know where I'm at on that situation. But in the grand scheme of things, we have a really, really nice facility. We have some things that need to get finished. I think y'all probably noticed that there's baseball games going on out there. We're a satellite site for the Chad Wolf Classic that's all over Northwest Arkansas this weekend, and our booster club, baseball and softball booster clubs, I think, are running the concession stand, so they're getting the money off of that. But so the facility's great, but they know, our constructions company knows they're still on the hook. They're not done, and they're here working, and we got some things. The tennis courts have been open for a while. I have seen multiple examples of the public coming out to use those, and I've been pleased to see that as well. And so we're trying to get that finished up, but I just kind of wanted to let you know, everything's is fully usable. We just have some punch list items and then a couple other bigger things that we need to get sewn up that have a little bit of struggle with, but we're working through those. The next thing is, I'm going to bring this up again. I'm going to bring up the walk zone conversation for our busing. My gut tells me, based on my experience over the last several years with the way our numbers grow on a daily basis, the amount of bus drivers that we are not having apply, or people who want to be a bus driver apply, and then some that, we've lost a few bus drivers for various reasons. And so I don't think the numbers are computing out real well. So I really would like to have the board, if the board would consider, if you're going to have a work session coming up about cell phone usage, I really would like to ask the board to take up walk zones. I do not think that's a decision that Mr. Wiggins, as current superintendent, or me as the next superintendent, should be making without massive amounts of input, and we're all going to have to be on the same page because it is going to be a massive change. And so I really think it's a conversation we as a team are going to have to look at, get feedback, get input, talk through all of the things, just like every time you do this over here happens, how all that's going to work. But if we don't do this pretty quick, we're not going to have a solid plan ready for August, because it doesn't, as you know, you don't just throw something like this together overnight and throw it out to the public. So we really need to have this discussion. And I really think we're going to have to do that in a work session where we can have an open conversation and come up with ideas and make sure that we're all on the same page. Because no matter what we decide to do, if the board, you as a board decide you want to go to a walk zone, you're going to get the feedback of the people that don't like that. If we continue at the rate we are and we cancel bus routes every day or combined routes and people are late, you're going to hear about that. I mean, we're all going to hear about this. And so I think we just need to make sure that we're all on the same page about it. I just know the numbers don't match up, the drivers to the number of routes we currently have and the number of routes that we're going to have to add. So that's something that I would recommend.
I think that's what we can do. For sure. Mm-hmm. Is there a target date where we need to know that to get it out? And
May 1st, last May 1st.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. Not really, but kind of. As soon as the board is willing to meet for a work session, whether that's next week, whether that's the week after, was the first, the sooner we can meet and discuss it, because once again, I'm kind of like you, I'm not sure we may or may not come up with a plan in one meeting that we feel comfortable with.
So for perspective, our next official board meeting, your next official board meeting, is the second week of July. There's a holiday weekend there before that. If a decision was made on the second week of July, that gives transportation 4 weeks basically to get word out before we start back to school. So even if we go past that, if it's not ready, or if it's still in discussions and you go a week past that or 2 weeks, then that time is cut down. So there is some urgency there if we're going to make a big change.
And we're going to need to communicate it, so we're going to have time to over communicate that with people, because it'll be something that's it's just going to be a difficult thing if we go that direction, but it's going to be a difficult thing if we don't go that direction.
Mm-hmm. Has Michelle wrapped up the report? I'm joking. All right, I think we for sure can discuss it and get we need to, to the board, when I mentioned the cell phone usage, could be a couple of work sessions. I think this one is one that we need to timestamp and try to make a decision that we could do something at the July board meeting.
And I think it could go along in the same work it could be a work
that's
session.
what I'm
We
saying.
could do it at the same time as the cell phone conversation, if, have 2 agenda items, if that's what you chose to do.
Is a month from now too late? That
Have
decision?
the initial conversation?
No, to have the decision, because that's a month from now.
Decision at the July meeting.
That's pushing it, but
Yeah,
if that's the decision, if that's where we have to go, then that'll give us 4 weeks to get the word out. I mean, we would have to have a plan solidified. We can't start making a plan for how we're going to do that. We would have to have a plan solidified that you guys are prepared to approve.
Right.
By then, so we can start getting word out.
So we potentially would need 2 meetings if we
I
could
would say
decide, get a
at least
plan.
one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We can do that.
That concludes my report, unless you have some questions. All right.
I had a question down before we move to action items, Amy, on the report. You mentioned that we were the first district in the state to jump on that. I've heard that a lot about Siloam Springs in years past. What were the advantages of us doing that? Or were there any?
Yes, there are.
Okay. Okay.
Out on the same way.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Perfect.
So can I follow up on that real quick? So our district leadership team back in, I don't even know when we started talking about it, maybe January or February. As we were continuing to break down the pieces of the LEARNS Act and looking at the possible rules, the lead teacher and mentor teacher statuses came to our attention because we host a lot of intern teachers from JBU, from the U of A, and even from schools in Oklahoma. We regularly have intern teachers. So 2 years from now, none of our teachers would be able to be a mentor to those teachers unless they have one of those 2 designations. And so if we didn't have any teachers with those designations, we would not be able to host any interns. We get a lot of new hires from our interns. That's a pipeline for us. That's very important to us. So when we realized that was coming, those 2 pathways or those 2 designations are going to cost our teachers, or potentially could cost our teachers, money to add to their license, because they would either have to go back for classes or receive expensive training. Okay.
Yep.
So we did a couple of things. I'm not going to say we were the first to do this, but we were among the first to put a stipend in our salary schedule when we adopted salary schedules for next year. We've added a stipend for those 2 designations on their license. That's incentive for our teachers to do it. When we announced that, we had a lot of teachers that were suddenly interested in doing that. They wanted to go and get the training, okay? So then when we started looking at training, there were multiple trainings around at the co-op, at other co-ops, but they may only allow 10 people in the. Okay, so if they only allow 10 seats in a training that's going to last all year long, and there's 16 districts in Northwest Arkansas that are trying to take advantage of that, we saw that there was going to be a bottleneck. So Amy has worked with NIET, one of the companies that we can associate with to get that designation on our teachers' licenses, to guarantee us 33 slots this coming year. Now, it's expensive, but we also had some money in our PDA funds and our ESA funds this year that we had to spend before the end of the year. So we have contracted with them to guarantee us 33 slots next year for our teachers. I would anticipate that we may have more teachers certified a year from now than anybody.
The co-op is the gatekeeper?
Well, the co-op is.
Or is this a state requirement?
The state is the requirement. It comes from LEARNS Act and the rules promulgated to support it. The co-op is just the avenue that the third-party vendors that are providing the training are using to provide.
I was about to say, I've got my first request for you. Help us.
So anyway, it's going to be a good deal for a lot of our teachers that get certified that way. It's going to give them a little extra money in their pocket, and they get to be mentors later.
Good. I appreciate that, because sometimes we hear we're first to whatever, but we don't always understand the benefits and the why. So anytime we do have that in reports, if we can follow that up with, and here's why we did this. Because sometimes it can be overwhelming that we're always taking on something new. But if teachers know why, or, they understand, I think it helps. So.
They were excited, and they volunteered. We did.
Right.
I'm glad you dug into that. That was,
Thank you.
I had one question, Mr. Patrick, sorry, real quick. Promise mine will be quick. How long should we expect to see said construction company vehicles here?
Which project? So on the admin building, we're working through punch lists. It's common knowledge, I'll say it. So we lost 2 of the lead people for Milestone, don't work for Milestone anymore, that were over this project. And our daily job superintendent that had been here, they had already pulled him and sent him to another job. And so we were kind of floundering in the wind, and I was beating on doors trying to get some things done. And so they pulled that superintendent back here. They've reassigned some people. So there are some things that Randall, and Zach have been pounding our fist about. And so we've had several meetings, and I think they have a game plan. I am not going to give you a time schedule, because we got some floor work that they are struggling, and to get that company to come back and do some rework on that. We met with the landscaper. So I don't know how, you probably haven't noticed it yet because it's just now getting hot, but if you go out and you walk the sod, there is no grass. It's either weeds or poana that's just going to die out as soon as we get to keep these 90-degree days. It'll be dead. So they are going to actually start next week. As soon as they bring us the chemical, we're going to spray the chemical. We're going to kill all the weeds. They're going to till everything up and resod everything around. So we have some things. We're waiting on some brackets to be built for some lights that are supposed to go on the outside of the building, shined it on the building lettering. So we just have some things. We've been fighting with the AC units, as y'all been in here from different times. We've had some issues, especially in this end of the building. We're getting closer to getting that done. So I don't have a good explanation. I just know that Randall and I don't go a day without talking about it and emailing and demanding some things. I will say it seems would you agree, over the last few weeks, it seems to be way more important to Milestone to get things wrapped up because we're not paying them. I've told them I'm not paying them any more money until we get done. So they need, and part of this, until we sign final paperwork, they're still carrying the builder's risk insurance on this facility we've been in for 6 months. So we've not had to pay that either. It's not on our insurance yet. So they need to get done, but they know we're not going to sign off on it until everything is done. We've had a lot of problem with storefront. I made them re-water test all the storefront, and we found several more leaks. So they have been, over the last week, have been redoing a lot of storefront again because I just wasn't satisfied. And once they finish with that, we'll water test it again. And I'll have to, Zach witnessed it last time, the entire time, and Randall or Zach or myself will be it next time they water test it, and all, just to make sure. So that project over there, as I stated, I don't have the metal contractor they got 2 hours of work, and they're struggling to get them back out there. And then the rest of the stuff is basically making Mammoth crews do what, we're in discussions about how they're going to fix the issues that I have with the facility. So hopefully sooner than later. I wish I could give you a better answer.
That's great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Milestone's been on the lighting for over 2 weeks. I'm the one that actually made the brackets, and it took over 2 weeks to get that custom tubing in to notch everything out. So it's not,
Yeah.
I mean, supply and demand right now is just a joke.
Yeah.
So
And if that's all we were waiting on, I wouldn't have called them out. No,
exactly. It wasn't just that.
That's not those brackets weren't the only thing.
Yeah.
The biggest problem is the brackets got missed.
Yep.
In the deal.
They're done. They picked them up day before yesterday.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
All right, action items?
Okay, I'm on the consent agenda. There's several things in there. I think 5 sets of minutes, 1 from a regular board meeting, 1 from a special board meeting, and 3 from student hearings. Personnel transfers and changes, we've got 2 student transfers in, 3 out. 12 certified transfers, position to position in district. Classified transfers, 4, position to position in district. Duties added or removed for staff members, there is 5 of those. 8 classified resignations and 3 classified hires. I would ask that you approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Financial statement.
I'm sad to admit that I'm not wearing the brightest outfit. That was my goal.
Such a good point.
Summertime.
It is summertime.
My family was shocked when I walked out the door. They're like, "What are you wearing?" Miss Tracy Yoakum, you inspired me yesterday. Your flowery dress.
So, we are in the 11th hour of our financials for the year, 92% of the way through, which means we just have 1 more month. And in the month of June, lots of things move and shake. You will see huge differences between this board report and the next financial report because we have 2 payrolls in June. We have a lot of one-time payments that we make in June. And then, there's just a lot that happens in the month of June. So some of these numbers will look a lot differently. So if you look at the second page on the unrestricted revenue, if you look at the local revenue, the property tax portion, we are about $920,000 short of what we have projected to receive this year. June is not over. I have gotten some numbers from Benton County, but I haven't gotten any numbers from Washington County, and I don't know exactly how we're going to end up, but, you know, we're still a little short, which is not unusual for this time of year. Again, looking down the line, if you look at the interest, it's like, golly, Terry, you really didn't hit that one. Well, you're right, but we cashed in our treasury T-bills, and that was a lot of interest that we didn't, it's kind of a blessing that we got all of that. On the refunds, where that was under budgeted, we actually received an insurance payment in the current year for last year expenses. And so I wasn't expecting to get that. As you go on down, you look at state revenue, you will see that we have gotten almost $275,000 more than we had projected, and that is a wonderful thing. Our district continues to grow, which is wonderful. Coming on down, if you look at SPED catastrophic funding, we haven't heard anything from the state. We will find out, hopefully, by the end of June. If not, it'll be the 1st of July. Fingers crossed that we hit the projection. As far as local collections go, and if you look at your graph on the next page, this time last year, we had collected 98.8% of the projected amount. This year, we're sitting at 97.1%. So we're a little behind percentage-wise where we were this time last year. It's nothing to be concerned about. I just wanted to throw that out there. As we continue to go through, if you look at teacher salary fund expenditures, we are almost 100% on target. And you're going, what are you talking about, Terry? That's a lot of money. You have to remember, we have 2 pay runs. We send out 2 checks in June to the majority of our certified staff. So if you take the current month's expenditures and divide it into the remaining budget, it comes out to 1.9. 2 would be perfect. So we're still on target with that. Nothing is extraordinary on the expenditures. I did want to talk about the building fund. So as you flip through, if you go to the building fund, you will notice that we have not received any funding from our foundation. But I have been in contact with Chuck Hyde, and he has assured me we will have money from them before June 30th. And he told me what he thought it was going to be, and now I can't remember what it was. So 100,000 approximately. We won't hold them to that. Property sales, we didn't expect to sell our buildings as quickly as we did, but that was an unexpected blessing to get that extra revenue in there. But that goes along with the unexpected expense of buying this little dab of property right next door to us. That was not in our original plans either, so that kind of offset. And we still came out ahead on that, so that's fantastic. And then between the 2 projects that Shane was talking to you about, we have about $1 million left to spend on the 2 projects. So I just wanted to keep you guys in the loop so you could see how we were sitting and what was coming down the pipeline. Do you have any questions? No, that's okay. No, we have received that. You all have anything else?
Didn't flag anything this month, so. Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Summer hire list.
I don't know. Go ahead.
Number 1.
Number 1, yeah, well, okay, so you hear lots of negative things about the LEARNS Act and some positive. I mean, they kind of even each other out. One of the things that lawyers and everyone kind of looked at this year was how we write contracts. So for the first time ever, our contracts that were issued at the beginning of this school year started on July 1st and ended on June 30th. That means any contracted employee that works any time during the year is paid. Gets paid. We don't have to do the huge summer hire lists like we've had to do in the past.
No.
Because they're covered under their contract, yeah. You want to see the internal one that I'm running, but that's another story.
I'm sure.
So this list contains those people that do not have a contract with the Siloam Springs School District. And you all do have to approve to pay them because we have no basis to pay them without your approval. So hopefully, and I'm not saying we won't have any more, but I don't think they're going to look as crazy as they have in the past. So do you have any questions about that?
So give us a few examples of things that are in here. Why we're paying somebody that's not contracted.
Okay, so maintenance needs tons and tons of help. They paint, they help do floors, they do lots of mowing. What else do you? So we simply don't have enough staff to do that all summer long. So a lot of our employees, older children, get the opportunity to work with us over the summer. Our tech department is small and they do a tremendous job with very few people. But there are a lot of things that go on in our tech department that need extra help. So we hire some people to come in and help us do that. Our food service department, not everybody wants to work during the summer. And so we feed children all summer long, and we are so proud of that. So we have people kind of on standby that have said, yes, I'd love to come in and work with you all this summer.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Motion to approve.
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, number 4, compensation for teachers.
Okay, so we have a law in Arkansas that if a teacher has more than 150 students, then we have to pay them extra. And they agree to do that on the front end this also goes for extra, if they work through their prep, which we have several at the high school that have done that through the years, we pay them extra. So we have 4 teachers for this second semester, and 4 of them are fourth quarter, and then 1 of them is doubled up for third quarter as well. So I would just ask that you approve the extra payment to these teachers for teaching more than what they are supposed to have to.
Motion to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Great. New FTEs.
Okay, so FTEs are full-time equivalent positions. Full-time equivalent is FTE. And so that's how we describe new teaching spots, new classified spots, whether it's maintenance or technology or whatever. As you all know, our biggest expense in the school district is salary and benefits. So asking you all to approve FTEs, additional FTEs, I do not take lightly, and I don't expect that Shane will take that lightly. I'm coming to you this year asking for quite a few for next year, and I've given some reasons in here. Overall, I'm asking that you approve 6 new certified FTEs for next year and 5.5 new classified FTEs. I'm going to talk about a few of those things. Under certified, the first 5 are high school and middle school, and this is as a result of, we talked about moving those athletic periods into the school day. That means by doing that, we're taking people who used to coach after school and letting them coach during the school day, so we're taking them out of classes. So to cover the classes that we don't have covered with teachers, we had to make some adjustments in schedules and in staffing at middle school and high school, and that came out to be 5 FTEs across the 2 buildings. Okay. 1 is for human resources, which the board asked for us to put into the salary schedule. So that's a new spot. And then we always seem to be adding some special ed. And then the 4th bullet point under certified, I usually ask for at least 1 potential. So if we get into August and we suddenly realize we need another kindergarten teacher to make our numbers work out or our second grade numbers work out, then we have the ability to go ahead and hire that without trying to get it approved by you all first. So that one may or may not be used. We think we're okay with K through 6 numbers by law and by standard. And actually, at the last bullet point, we actually have eliminated 2 spots in K through 6 teaching spots because we didn't actually get rid of anyone. The 2 spots were through attrition, but because of the way the numbers worked out at all the different grade levels, we were able to eliminate 2 teaching spots. This year, we actually had an extra spot at kindergarten almost all year. And so we never know what our kindergarten numbers are until August. So we have to kind of guess about that on the front end, and we guessed 1 extra this year. So that was one of those two spots that we were able to eliminate. The classified spots, one of those is Director of Communications and Public Relations, which the board also asked us to add into the salary schedule, and then some special ed paraprofessionals and a behavior paraprofessional. We have situations in our lower grades that are requiring additional adults to handle some student behaviors. There's letters for the ones that didn't come from the board necessarily. There's letters from their supervisors explaining the situations and why they're needed. Again, I don't ask for FTEs lightly because this is a large expense going into next year. And so I think they're needed, and I would ask you all to approve those additional FTEs.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. 2024-25 board meeting dates.
You have the proposed board meeting dates in your packet. Basically, it's the second Thursday of each month at 5:30, except for July. It was moved, July, correct, because of the holiday week, and December. And the reason December was moved was because the second Thursday fell at the same time as the annual school board member conference in Little Rock. And there's a thought that perhaps some of you might want to go. And so we moved that date to allow that to happen.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Co-op representative resolution.
So last year, because of a new law, you all were asked to approve me, the superintendent, to be the representative for our school district at the co-op. And every school district in the Northwest Arkansas, all 16, have a representative that serves on the board of the co-op. It has historically always been superintendents. It is currently still all superintendents. And so this resolution would name Shane as the superintendent to be the representative on the co-op board.
Yeah.
For the next 2 years.
Yeah, I think so. Otherwise, it's one of us. Motion
Well,
to.
the law actually says that it gives some leeway, but every school district in Northwest Arkansas has their superintendent as the representative currently.
Yeah. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Easement deed?
So what I've been meeting with the city for over 2 years to talk about the issue at Allen Elementary, about the kids crossing the street, either cross traffic or going under the culvert, through the culvert, you know, even dragging bicycles through the culvert to get over to Allen from that neighborhood. Well, a few weeks ago, met with the city. Randall and I actually met with the city, and the city is going to do. They were struggling finding somebody to actually do the work that they needed done, and so they decided. Thankful to Alan Gilbert, the city administrator, just kind of made it something that was super important. They had applied for a grant that was going to run out here in a few months if they didn't use it to help pay for their part of it. And And so he just kind of made it a priority, and I appreciate him in the city. So they're going to take their crews, and they're actually going to do the work. Part of what we came up with, though, is to do some of that work, to be able to do it, they have to have an access easement granted, and what that says is the city will have the public will have access to that sidewalk. So our part of the project is taking that would be let me think back. That'd be the northwest corner of Allen, the sidewalk ends in front of the school. We would pay for a sidewalk to go from there to the crosswalk, down the side, and then up to the crosswalk. Well, they're going to actually do all the work, and we'll pay the city for that. And it's actually going to be a lot cheaper in doing it that way than to get all of this done. We have to give the public access to that sidewalk legally, which means not only do they get access to that sidewalk, but they're also going to get access to the sidewalk that goes in front of Allen Elementary all the way across to the pool. And so we talked a lot about this and how that would influence it. We've got a little fencing that we're going to do around that northwest corner of Allen to kind of protect the backside of the school, even though that playground is already completely fenced in. Coming out that end door of that north wing right there, we're going to kind of block that in. We'll get that done this summer after they get that sidewalk done. But so we'll take care of the security side, but we are going to have to give access to the city, just the general public, to go that sidewalk over to the pool. After talking about it, we've gone back and forth. I just think it's the right thing to do. I think we need that. That's really the only way that crosswalk's going to work, is we're going to have to be able to do that. It's not even whether we do the work and city, it's about who does it, but really the only way that crosswalk will work, it's a public crosswalk. It's not a school crosswalk. So we need it for our kids. So I'm going to recommend that we approve this easement, and it will help us in the future. Since they have easement, they'll be able to help us with any repair of the sidewalks or whatever that we need to do.
That was going to be my question, is if we give the easement, are they responsible for maintenance?
We'll still have, the agreement is that we'll have a joint deal, but we'll work together on that. And we will still maintain all of the grass that's on our property, though. And we have a really good working relationship with the city. We have some properties. Matter of fact, Allen is a prime example. We do own a little bit of property on the other side of 43, on the other side from Allen. And then they have some property on this side, little pieces, and they take care of that. Like, we have some agreements that we help each other out. So I think it'll be a really good thing.
Motion to approve.
I have a question first.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. That's all right. You said you went back and forth a little bit but you thought it was the right thing to do. Was it just primarily for the protection of our kids?
Yep.
Which you addressed with this? Okay.
Yeah, we just wanted to make sure that we, and when I talked to Mr. Gilbert, being former police chief and city administrator now, like, we were able to have a conversation about, like, what does that look like and all, and the police PD's on board with it. If during school hours, if we have school, that takes precedent. If there's somebody they're not going to let a homeless person come camp out there on that sidewalk. So that's not, we can always ask them to leave, that kind of stuff. So we have that ability in this.
Especially in light of the potential walk zone change. I can imagine there's going to need to be more, because between schools.
Yes, but I will say this, what Steve and I kind of showed y'all that map, we really don't want kids crossing 43. So the kids on that other side of that street, now we're going to have we'll probably have a work session on that. We can talk about all that, but those major roads, 43, 412, some of that stuff really concerns me about kids crossing those streets. I don't really want them on those major roads doing that.
Thank you. I will second now.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Federal programs assurances.
So this is something that comes to you every year. It has looked a little bit different in the past because we have a different program provided from the state this year. This is basically just assurances that we are going to, as a school district, comply with all the federal laws and strings attached to the federal money that we receive through Title I, Title II, Title III, and Title IV. And that is a pretty good chunk of money when you add them all up. This is on the federal programs coordinator or whoever is assigned that task of managing the federal funds to ensure that we comply with all the rules and the strings attached. And I used to tell you when I was in that position that if anything went wrong, it would be me that would be in the orange jumpsuit. It won't be me anymore, but I'm asking you all to approve this for our federal funds.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we'll call this meeting into executive session for the purpose of hiring and resignations.
Yeah, that's fast.
All right, we'll call this meeting back into open session.
So I will, I'll interject here, and there's a graph or a spreadsheet up on the big screen showing how the other districts that are of similar size and have similar ESL populations, how their numbers look for the data that was shared with you all earlier. So just quickly, I would say that we are doing as well or better than a couple of large districts that are somewhat close to us. And then there is one large district that is close to us that is doing a little better than us. Yeah, I agree.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm just impressed with the speed. I mean, that's incredible. I don't know how you did that. Yeah, no kidding.
Okay, licensed resignations. We have one licensed resignation for you to approve tonight. Tori Good, middle school counselor. Recommend that you approve that.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
We have 17 licensed hires tonight for you to approve. I'm going to single out the first one, Mr. Matt Brunk, Central Office Director of Human Resources. He's sitting at the back. Wave, Matt.
Welcome.
Yes.
We also have Monica Meyer, middle school principal. Is Monica here tonight? Okay. Robert Bolner, middle school 8th grade social studies. Mackenzie Kahn, middle school 8th grade science. Kimberly Tillman, middle school intermediate school counselor. Bonnie Anderson, high school special ed. Denise Gonzalez, high school Spanish. Fernando Ramirez, high school ESL. Romy Capote, high school Spanish. Yumia Fullerton, Southside principal. Yumia is here. Okay. Chelsea Coker, Southside Elementary, Allen Elementary counselor. That's a split spot. Devaney Stadel, Allen Elementary, 2nd grade. Jesse Beeman, Allen Elementary, 2nd grade. Hannah Broadstreet, Northside Elementary sped. Sarah Griffin, intermediate 6th grade social studies. Julia Wilson, intermediate 5th grade ELA. And Anna Brown, middle school 8th grade English language arts, ELA. Would ask that you all approve those 17 new hires.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
You have a letter supporting an emergency sick leave in your packet. The person requesting that meets the policy requirements. I would recommend that you all approve that emergency sick leave.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All approved? Or all approved? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Financial resolution, you have a financial resolution in your packet, and basically this is giving Terry and Shane the ability and the rights to do things with the bank on the financial side. So sign checks, sign deposit money, and all the good banking stuff. This gives them the right to do as the leaders of the district. And then there's a second part of that financial resolution where you all name a dispersing officer and a backup from the board. And those people, the dispersing officer actually comes in and signs off on checks each week, along with Terry and Shane. And so I'm going to put that in your hands at this point.
Okay, I will make a motion to approve the financial resolution as written and appointing Heath Nance as dispersing officer for 24-25 fiscal year and Eric Berthold as an alternate for the same year.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
And before we adjourn, I would just like to say thank you for the opportunity to serve this school district as superintendent for the last 5 years. Looked out earlier, and there's 2 people here that were here when I came, and that's Brian and Kelly Meeker, I believe. And so that was 22 years ago, and it has been a pleasure to serve the district that long in a lot of different capacities. I'm appreciative for this school district and for the leadership of this school district to give me opportunities to do a lot of different things, from athletic director to vice principal at a high school to federal programs to assistant superintendent and now superintendent. And this is bittersweet. Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Let's give him a round of applause.
With that, before we lose Bambi, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right.